and Ben Johnson, who's the Senior Sales Campaign Manager. So I'm going to hand over to you guys and let you take over.
Thanks, Karen. And yeah, so thanks, guys, also for joining us. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you about the big switch off, what it is, what it means for consumers across the UK. We are actually also joined by Mark Redgrave, who's part of our team, who's the guy who sat next to Karen. And Mark is part of the wider telecoms team and is able to help answer questions. In relation to questions, we'll go through the presentation. If you do have questions or comments that crop up during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat. I think Karen's going to monitor the chat as we go through, and then there'll be a formal session for questions after we've been through the slide deck that we've got prepared for you. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of the idea of the structure of the session. We're hoping the session will last around about an hour, but that will be very much dependent on the questions that we get back and forth. So looking forward to speaking to you about it. So what is the big switch off? That's the question, isn't it? So the big switch off is all to do with the way we use landlines at home. So the way we use landlines are changing. The analog phone network, the copper network, is over 100 years old and is coming to the end of its life. There are much more able digital solutions that will be replacing this system. The actual switch off itself won't happen until January 2027. So there is a little bit of time, but what we are seeing is telecoms companies start to talk to their customers now about what it means for them. And what we thought today was this is a great opportunity for us to talk to you, not as a sales pitch, not as a commercial opportunity, but to talk to you as members from people that are within this industry to help you navigate through the changes that are coming. For some, there will be very, very little change. For others, there might be some more complex change. But the one thing that we can say is that we, as our co-op, will be here for you throughout that process. As you know, the copper network is over 100 years old, so it is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain spare parts. And that's why, as a nation, we're moving away from that technology in favour of digital voice. This isn't something that the co-op have chosen to do or any one provider. This is something that's happening nationally. And I think over the months that come between now and January, you will start to see more national campaigns and more literature about the big switch off as we approach that date of January 2027. You may also recall that the January 2027 date has been put back a couple of times, but we are assured that is a final date for the switch off. The telco industry, as you can see on the slide there, are moving customers towards newer and more reliable services, essentially digital services. So what does it mean? What is the future?
Thank you, Stuart. And I think the word big switch off can be quite intimidating as well. I think most people's natural reaction is, what are you switching off? And I don't want it switched off. But I think the future is actually really here. Many countries have already gone through this process. And what it basically means is that all traditional phone lines will be moved over to broadband. Some of the terminology for this process, instead of big switch off, is digital voice. Some acronyms that I won't bore you with, VoIP or IP voice or cloud voice, but essentially all means the same thing in this process. And we're moving from an analog system onto digital broadband. And if you don't already have broadband, I mean, for the most part, everyone's on this call tonight, so you do. But if you don't, then your service provider, whoever you are with, will help you transition from the switch off onto a VoIP network. And the process is very, very simple. You'll be given a router, which you'll plug your phone into, and your phone line will be moved over for you. So there's nothing you need to do as long as you are in touch with your provider. And just to be a bit clear in terms of the services that digital voice or VoIP use, it's everything from your healthcare monitoring systems, your home device systems that you use, or your Ring doorbell, or your ADT alarm systems, and everything from lifts to railway signaling and cash machines.
So what do we need to do? For the vast majority of domestic consumers, it will be a case of your traditional home phone line moving across to a digital product. Now, if you already have broadband, the change may be as simple as simply switching out the phone from the wall. Those wall sockets essentially won't work after January 2027, and plugging it into your broadband router. Now, that's the case for some consumers, but you will need specific guidance in relation to how that works for you, depending on your setup and your provider. So in the most case, the digital switch off and the big switch off will be something fairly straightforward. There are a couple of key questions for you just to ask yourself, and your providers may well have already been in touch with you about this and trying to kind of transfer you across in time. But if you get broadband and line rental from different providers, you will need to decide which provider you want to keep. Those will need to be with the same provider moving forward. If you currently don't have broadband, don't worry, you can wait for your provider to move you across. Your line rental provider will provide you broadband options. Alternative, you may be able to save upgrade by upgrading your services before the switch happens. We're seeing lots of activity within the marketplace at the moment where telco businesses are trying to sign you up and avoid any kind of complications further on down the line. So in the most case, this will be a simple, straightforward switch, but in kind of unprecedented terms, in terms of the telco industry, the consumers will need to do something between now and the end of January.
So what's different? So I've kind of mentioned it in the previous slide, but just to go into a bit more detail. So essentially how your how your home device is configured is different. So because currently most people are using the old system, it's going to be retired. What may happen is you'll lose access to your voicemail and the PIN number that you'll do to access that voicemail in messages. Your telephone sockets that you currently use will no longer be needed, and obviously will be implemented through the digital voice system. And you'll need to dial the full area code rather than just missing out if you're making a local call. Call quality should improve, and especially for long distance calls.
Okay. The regulator Ofcom has stated that in order to go through this change in as seamless way as possible, there are extra precautions and guardrails put in for vulnerable customers, which are defined as people that use telecare devices, home care devices, or rely heavily on your landline. Our advice here is our co-op would be that you should tell your phone provider nice and early about your needs to ensure that they can recommend a product for you to move over to. You should also check your equipment provider to make sure that it's digital ready. So if you do have or you know of people that have home alarms or cords in bathrooms for mobility aids, that sort of things, to ensure that they are digital ready for the switchover. Phone and broadband providers have specific responsibilities to support vulnerable customers. Largely, that may include battery backup replacements or new routers in some cases where existing routers in people's homes may be too old. So what I'm trying to say here is telco operators that are managing this change do have plans in place, and they also have regulatory commitments to make sure they abide by. So that's a kind of a bit of a safety net for everybody. The main message here is that your provider will be in touch with you, but if you feel that there is a hole within the communication, we're here to help. Equally, if you want to explore the potential of joining our business, and then you're obviously more than welcome to do that as well.
So do you need a landline? So most people, and we are moving into a digital world, and landlines are not necessary for the internet, and some people don't use them. But even if you don't need a phone service, and even if you don't need a phone service, you can still get connections to the internet. Connections installed before the September 2023 may still need to be upgraded to digital voice, which is why it's important. Which is why it's important to make sure that you contact your service provider, as to what Stuart mentioned earlier. Full fibre offers, and to what Stuart said in his in the last slide, full fibre offers that we're seeing in the market are having some great offers at the moment. So I would encourage anyone, and by all means, it's not a sales pitch, but I would encourage everyone to check out and have a look at the offers available. What needs to change? So to go through the transition of this change from the big switch off, an engineer will need to come out to your address. They'll drill a small hole in the wall.
Everything done that was going to be done has been done.
Sorry about that. So yeah, an engineer will need to come out to your location and drill a small hole into your building or home, and it just to enable that cable to connection to go out. And just in terms of so I just lost my train of thought there. So mentioned the need to get connection into their house. So it's really important. I know that 2027 feels like a long time away from now, but the earlier you get this done, the better. It's inevitable that everyone will need to go through this change, and it will ensure that it's a smooth transition process, and it will reduce any risk of you losing service at all.
Okay, thank you, Ben. That's kind of the brief kind of update on what the big switch off is. If you'll move us forward, yeah, thank you. I think there's a couple of key points for me just to kind of summarize. Essentially, is after the latest of the end of January 2027, your home phone won't work in the traditional way if it's plugged in through the old school phone socket in the wall. It will need to be plugged into a broadband router. That may take a very, very simple change. It may take a router replacement, or it may take a more complex change. That depends on your individual broadband connection, and in some cases your individual property. If you have separate providers for these two services, you will need to amalgamate them into one, and you have a choice to make that no doubt your providers will be either speaking to you about now or trying to speak to you about over the coming months. We here at our Co-op offer those services should anyone be interested or wish for further information. We do understand that the big switch off could look like quite a daunting change. It is the biggest change in the domestic telecoms market for over, for several decades. But we are here to help. And we see today here at our Co-op and mobile Co-op and broadband Co-op as a start of a process, and not just the only time you'll hear from us. We'll commit today to having another session on this in a few months' time to give you any more updates that we have and to try and help guide members through the process. And we're here outside of these sessions also. There's an email address at the bottom of the screen there, yourcoophello@midcounters.coop. Now that is an email address where you're able to ask questions, and that gets through to the right people within the team, whether it be Mark or Matt, who heads up our service operation, and they will be able to answer your questions, whether you're a customer of ours or not. Okay, so we're very, very clear on that. You as members, we are here to help you as members through this change, whether you're a customer of ours or not. So we're just really keen on that. We want to open the floor, if we may, for questions and comments. It would be very hard for us to talk about your individual personal circumstances today without knowing everyone's individual details. So we'd much rather generic questions at this stage, any points of clarity that maybe we need to restate. Or if there, and of course, if there are individual circumstantial questions, then the email address on the screen there would be the most appropriate place to take that. So we've also got Mark in the room as well, who we said there is next to Karen. He's happy to take questions as well. So I suppose the first place to start, Karen, it might be, is there anything in the chat or anything that people
Nothing in the chat at the moment. So if anybody does want to ask a question, if you want to raise your hand and take yourself off mute, the guys will be happy to answer any questions. We have just got one that's coming. What happens in a power cut?
Yeah, so battery backups and other power sources are being sourced at the moment. The absolute definition of the solution for that problem is not yet defined and will be well ahead of the deadline. As soon as we have an update or some concrete definitive answer on that, we will absolutely communicate it out to our customers. Mark, have you got anything to add on that one at all?
Yeah, the other option, if there is a power cut because your broadband service would be down at that point, is you have a mobile. If you have a mobile at home, you have the opportunity to put a phone out using that as your way to communicate to others or get hold of an emergency call.
Thank you.
Does anybody have a question? You can raise your hand so that we can see who it is that wants to ask, I've got another one come in. Is the date, hold on 1 second, it moved. Right, is the date that absolute deadline? Is that this project now on target across the country?
Yes, that is the final deadline it can happen. I think it's been put back by 2 years. And I say I think because I wasn't in the industry when this was first discussed. Um, but it is. And there are local exchanges that are being switched off ahead of January 2027. But you will be aware through local communications, if you are one of those, that 2027 January is the final deadline.
Got another question here is, I don't need any faster broadband than I have at the moment and want to keep my landline number. I am concerned that cost for whatever service I get moved to will be much greater after maybe an initial time limited special offer.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, actually. And I understand the concern, actually. What I would say from just from a consumer's perspective here that happens to work in the industry is shop around. Shop around for sure. There is a greater scrutiny now on the way prices are displayed after initial trial periods or whatever. And we hear it, in the way in which we do it in kind of broadband co-op and mobile co-op, is very much transparent in terms of that. I obviously can't speak for all providers, but I would say shop around. There will be some very lucrative offers, and there'll be some good discounts out there as well. Is telco providers try and get your business, but shop around would be my first tip. And secondly, is be absolutely clear about what happens to the price after any special offer periods. But it's a really good shout out.
Stuart, got another one. It says, will copper broadband be turned off at the same time?
That is the big switch off, the copper broadband that you were talking about there. So as Stuart was just mentioning, there are a number of exchanges that have already been trialled or have been in the process of set dates of being turned off. So those areas have already experienced the turning off status. The date that's been set, which is the 31st of January of next year, that is the date that they will say by that point the copper network, broadband services and telephone services will no longer be available to go through those exchanges.
Hope that answers your question. Another question here. Can I use a basic phone line splitter to connect two phones or a phone and a fax on the back of the new router?
My understanding is yes, but it depends on the router.
We've got someone's got their hand up. George, do you want to take yourself off mute and ask your question?
Doesn't he just take himself off mute? I think I'm not sure we can hear him.
George, you're on mute, my love.
No. I'm not sure if you can hear us, George, but I think you're on mute.
Well, while George is sorting out his microphone, I've got another question here. Can I use, hold on, sorry, let me bring that down. Will I need a new phone?
It depends on your current phone, but probably not. So existing handsets will work. I can't speak for every handset or how old the handset being quoted is, but there is not a mandatory requirement for everybody to get a new phone. Existing handsets will work. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah, the provider will be able to clarify that for you. So if you want to check that with them, specifically your handset, they should be able to confirm whether that is possible to move across the digital voice.
Thank you.
All right. Next comment. Our router from the phone co-op is located out of the way, high on a wall. Will it have to be moved to enable the digital phone access? It won't be a small job.
Possibly, or we could use a longer cable to connect it. Depends on the individual circumstances. It sounds like this person is a customer of ours. If the routers come from us, get in touch with us. We'll have a look. Absolutely, well ahead of time. that feels like the sort of thing we could sort pretty easily.
Question. What about the very rural communities? Is there confidence that that will remain connected?
You want to take that one?
It's very much dependent on the network providers and what is available. There are a number of different provisions that are being currently provided for across the networks. Where full fibre is not installed, there are a number of services like GEA and a product called SOTAP that are currently being provided, wireless fibre networks. But Openreach as a whole are looking to try and provide connectivity across all of its sites. There are also a number of providers that also provide fibre services that are helping to support that network being set up.
Yeah, and I might just add as well, one of the reasons for the delay is to ensure a greater level of confidence. So we know over 99% of the UK is sufficiently connected,
Yes.
and that remains a challenge for the industry. But I don't foresee any problems. We're not hearing of any. Is George? Yeah, is George able to
It
unmute?
looked like he'd unmuted himself now, but it's gone back to mute.
Sorry, George. Feel free to put it in the chat if you want to. We got any more on the
Yeah. During the storm, Owen, we had no power for a week, no mobile signal for 3 weeks as towers down. The only thing that worked was the landline. We live remotely with no neighbours and are vulnerable. What provision is being made for these situations?
So do you want to talk about battery backups, Mark, which are being?
So the battery backups that are on there are unable to provide a certain length of time that would enable that network still to be able to be used through particular routers and connections. However, through a storm, you still might have an issue with the connectivity of that coming through if the line has been broken at a particular point. That would probably be something to raise with the network provider themselves so they can give you a bit more clarity for your area alone.
Clearly, one-off events will always happen, and that there will be challenges. And I do remember that particular one.
George, it looks like you've come off mute now. Do you want to try asking your question?
Yeah. The only problem I had was getting back to use my Alexa radio. I had to, because I'm not very technical, so I had to go and scratch around and wondered whether people who install could do that to ensure that you don't have any problems after they've installed, with your radio. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, and thank you for the question. So the Alexa radio runs straight through the Wi-Fi broadband anyway, so there shouldn't be any issues related to that.
I think
But
what George is saying, will that help me set
there
that
was.
Yeah, there could well be issues with that, but it's unlikely to be connected to the issues surrounding the phone network because it relates to a kind of straight through a broadband connection.
So will they?
Thank you.
I think what George is saying, will they, whoever comes in and does the installation or whatever, will they make sure that the things like George's Alexa or anybody else's sort of things are working before they leave?
Yeah, providers should do. We will.
Right.
Yeah, but providers should do. I can't speak for what our competitors will do,
Yeah.
but yeah.
No.
Is that what you meant, George? That
Yeah,
they would make sure.
Mine wasn't sort of reconnected. I was left and wondering what to do because I thought everything was turn off, turn on, but no, it was turn off. Turning back on was a bit of a problem with the radio, but I got it sorted through my family. But for somebody who's not so technic,
it's an inconvenience.
It's a bit of an issue. Maybe I should have shouted I should have rung up Chipping Norton and said help.
Oh,
yeah, there we go. Thank you.
hope that's answered your question, George.
Yep.
We've
Yes,
got
fine,
another
thank you.
question here. If our provider is you, how are you going to get in touch with us and when? Or is it better for us to contact you now? And how do you know what we already have unless we contact you?
That's a great question, and that's one that we've been asking ourselves as an internal team for over a year. We are in the middle of a huge project, actually, which Catherine within our team is running for us to communicate with every customer that we think is on our books that needs to make a change. We know exactly what you've got and what you need to move to, and are providing options for you in that regard. Some of those customers have been contacted, some of them haven't as yet. Jane, if you have a specific concern and you think that you should have been contacted, by all means get in touch with us at the email address below, and we will happily help.
Got another one. Currently, Co-op broadband can only offer me a copper broadband and not a fibre connection. Will this change before January 2027?
Yes, because it has to, and I'd be interested in seeing the details on that. That might be something to do with your location. I'm looking at Mark, who's nodding at me, which is good news. If you could send us an email, I think it's Anthony, that would be fantastic with your details on, and we will look into that one for you.
Is that okay, Anthony? With that, if you could let the guys know, just get in contact with them.
Thank you.
Another question, is it necessary to have a fibre connection to a property?
Going forward, it will be necessary to have a fibre connection going to the property. During the interim at the present stage, you'll find that there are fibre networks going around the country to local boxes or to on-site of telegraph poles, and it's still a copper network coming into the property. But it's still a partial fibre network that's being connected. Once that full fibre becomes connected at that point, then you'll have the full facilities available to you. You'll be able to have full connectivity. And like Stuart was saying earlier on, there will be a connection change that will need to be done because you'll be moving from a connection point of fibre to the future compared to your current copper network connection where you're currently going to the property.
Yeah. I think that might answer the next question as well.
Yeah,
if I'm seeing that
we don't have fibre and unlikely to get it anytime soon due to rural location. Will this matter?
I think without asking Mark to repeat himself, I think the same thing will happen. You will see fibre networks attached to copper. So it might be copper coming into your building for a small period of time, but it will be attached by a fibre network, which is due to be installed ahead of January.
Last time there was a power cut at my address, the nearby mobile phone base station also lost power. And so mobile calls were also unavailable for approximately 90 minutes. Landlines continued to work. Will there be precautions to stop this loss of mobile connection happening?
We'll just take that on the point of battery backups.
Yeah, so the battery backup systems that are going to be available will still enable you to use your network. As you've quite rightly said on there, though, if the mobile mast or base station had also lost its power at that particular point, that would still affect the mobile networks in that particular area. Although a lot of service providers, you're able to get a connection through other providers at that point. So if one mobile mast went down, the likelihood is another mobile mast would then be able to pick it up. The signal might not be as strong as the more local one to you, but you should still be able to get a connection through.
Next question. I have a property in a fairly remote location where running a new connection to the building would be a huge undertaking, including taking a cable underneath through a big concrete slab outside the building. Who is going to plan, carry out and pay
for this expensive work? So it's hard to say without knowing the specific layout of the property. I think the solution which Mark muted around copper still going from the phone from the property to the local exchange, and a fibre net will be attached to the exchange is probably what's going to happen in those locations. But over time, there'll be a full fibre rollout. So it's hard to say without knowing the specific details.
Again, if they were to contact you with a bit more information?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll do our best to help. Yeah. Or advise. Yeah, for sure.
Advise.
Yeah.
Will all internet providers be forced to offer landlines, some like PlusNet don't currently?
I'm not sure actually. That's a really good question. I don't think they have to, but I think they know obviously that as a result of that, they'll probably see some churn. So I'm not 100% sure. We could have a look at that, but at the moment, I'm not sure it's a mandatory requirement.
The router I use at the moment, I bought myself and it's only a couple of years old. It does not have a phone socket on the back. So does this mean I've wasted my money as the router would have to be replaced in order to get a phone socket? Is there a way? I'll let you answer that one first.
I don't know without knowing the router. It sounds like if it doesn't have a phone socket, possibly, but I'm not sure. Mark, would you have any from those few lines there?
So if the router hasn't got a connection point through the back of it, whether that's an Ethernet point which can be converted at a particular stage, normally most routers have connection points in there for you to be able to connect out through actual lines. If it hasn't got one, then it would probably be required to have a router changed to enable that connection point to be available for you.
Yeah.
If you needed to have a landline installed.
However, I would say that there are packages available, and we're offering packages available whereby the router cost is free as part of the sign up. So do have a look around if you find that is indeed the case.
Also, they've asked, is there no way to have service that uses the existing copper cable into the house with external wall insulation on the house walls to below ground level and an airtight layer running? Any new connections into the house are complicated. What solutions are there for these cases?
I'm not sure I know enough about the construction.
We'd need to take that away.
Yeah.
It's a supplier on that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. That might be one that we can take if we can arrange to take that away. Yeah, but it's an interesting question.
You got the note.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
If you want to drop the guys a message on the email address below, rather than asking you for your email address in the comments,
we can respond.
They can respond once they've looked into it for you, if that's okay. We use phone co-op. Will extensions in different parts of the house still work?
Yes. That's a simple one.
Simple one.
Yeah.
Is mobile broadband an option? This seems to be favoured by some service providers, EE and BT, for example, who currently have no access to our local fibre broadband, only the copper network.
Yeah, it is an option, and it's a growing option within the marketplace. At the moment, the mobile signal, as a general rule, isn't strong enough everywhere for it to be a uniform option. So this is the idea that essentially you tether off of a SIM card, essentially, in the same way some people use personal hotspots on their phone. And we are seeing growth within that, but it isn't reliable enough at the moment for enough of the UK. It relies on the mobile phone signal, which is, we know in this country is improving but patchy. But it is a growing option, yeah.
Is there any way to boost mobile signal in areas of poor reception? I am a phone co-op mobile customer with a Fairphone, but signal is very poor. In fact, it seems worse with the Fairphone than with my husband's cheaper phone.
Without knowing more details about the area and the phone, not sure. Would be really happy to have a look into that. So if we could get an email on that specific one, that would be great. Actually, if we could that. There's a question about, well, there's a comment saying it's quite hard to hear the presenter in the yellow shirt. So we'll make sure Mark gets a little bit closer to the laptop because he's offering brilliant insight. What else have we got?
Will copper broadband customers be charged for an engineer to come and change it over to full fibre? I am in a block of flats and have the old copper network. My understanding is that if BT comes to do anything internal within the property, that there is a charge, or will this not apply to be upgraded to full fibre?
Yeah, it depends. Unfortunately, I can't give that a straight answer because it depends on the building and the arrangements within the building, the site itself. Mark, do you want to just expand on that?
You can,
With an installation, it would be dependent on the site itself. If it was a standard installation and you were going through ourselves for our products, that installation is actually covered as part of the actual package. If a more direct and longer service is required for an engineer, then there may well be a charge required. But when that was being looked at by the team and being provisioned, you should be made aware of that before the engineer is being visited, so you're aware of a cost at that point. Would recommend speaking to your provider at that stage of what you're looking at, so that you can be fully aware of any implications, delays, or costs that are coming through.
what is going to happen to the copper watt lines? Is it all being removed?
Not sure. Not sure as yet. It's a good question. Be interested to see what happens with that on a national level. It will no doubt be removed and recycled at some point. It's a job for Openreach essentially. But it will be interesting to understand what happens there.
I live in Wales. A Welsh government leaflet advised that people in remote areas without fibre might need to think about satellite broadband.
Okay, I think that's a useful bit of information. I wasn't aware of that. It would be we'll try and track that down to see what their advice is. We do have customers in Wales, but no, thank you for that insight.
We've got a couple of business customers that are advised as similar on that front, and they've been advised to look at Starlink as one of their main provisions, and they were actually using it at that particular stage, mainly because of their rural-ness and the problem of actually getting any form of connection. It enabled them to get a steady and constant connection through that particular point. It was just at that stage there was no other options for them.
Any hard to get into buildings could get accessed by aerial fibre cables if necessary, rather than underground. There you go. So that's sort of answers that question from earlier, doesn't it, regarding the concrete and that. Did you just say there is some way to convert an internet connection on the back of an existing router to connect a phone? What is such an adapter called, and where can I buy one?
Mark, have you got?
Not the actual names of them, but yes. If you want to send that email in through us, we can provide you with some details on that to send back directly to you.
We've got someone with their hand up. If you would like to take yourself off mute and ask your question. Can't see the name, sorry. Yeah, lovely.
I'm glad you said you could do the extensions, because that seems to be different from what I got emailing the phone co-op about what was happening. I will send you an email afterwards. But was there going to be an increased cost, I guess, because we're going to go over to these new systems? And I understand vulnerable customers can have someone come to the property and check out what needs to be done. Is that correct?
In some instances, yes. It more depends on the location in the kind of layout. But your first question about cost, so it is hard to say without knowing what people's current bills are at the moment. I know from kind of like a more summary position, lots of our customers are able to save money because the price of legacy services is actually increasing and continues to increase, whereas we can offer digital solutions in lots of cases for less than what's being paid at the moment. That isn't a sales pitch or an exclusive kind of for everybody, but that is the kind of real feel for some customers. So it's not all about paying more. And the second question about sorry, is it Jeff? Sorry, did you want to? The second question about accessibility depends on a customer by customer basis. We're here and have support in place for those vulnerable customers moving forward. I can't speak for the providers, but if you've got any specific concerns, by all means, drop us an email and we'll come back to you.
Yeah, I'll email you afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's Jeff. Thank you, Jeff.
Starlink, we end up being unethical and supporting the rich to get richer, don't we?
So we don't work with Starlink, and I'm probably unable to comment further. We don't work with them, and that's probably as much as I can say on that.
Apparently, Starlink has just been banned in Canada due to geopolitics, security concerns. So there you go.
Okay.
As you can see, Ben's put the email address in the chat if anybody wants to email us after, or anybody that has asked a question that we're going to get back to or need information. The email address is now in the chat for you. Do we have any more questions at all? Because there's nothing left in the chat. But has anyone else got any questions? Or want to pop anything in the chat?
So while people do that, I think it's just really important that we just reiterate that this is the start of a engagement process between us as business and you guys as members, whether you're customers of ours or not. We want to help you in the same way, move through the transition, whether it's a simple process for you or a complex process for you. We're here to help. We do offer solutions, but we're also mindful that many of you on the call won't be customers of ours, but we're here to help in the same way. Lots of great feedback. Thank you. It's good to know, kind of get the idea of what people are concerned about. So some stuff around kind of power cuts, rural locations, fibre exit, battery backups, etc. That's great for me and my team to take that away and work through solutions. And we'll look to update the information that we have on our website to kind of further support. Equally, I made a commitment earlier to having at least a second session on this, as the clarity around the timelines and the process continues to evolve. And the message I'd like to leave you with as members is that we're here for you through this process. You've got the email address. I think we've shared it a couple of times, and we really want to help members move through this. So,
is there a way with these questions that we've had on here, doing a sort of like Q&A afterwards that we can put on the website for people to
yeah, we can do that.
look
Yeah,
at
I'll put
afterwards?
it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. There's a bit of a Q&A already, but there's some
Yeah.
really good questions that have come up today.
Absolutely.
It's the beauty of member engagement, right? So there'll be some stuff that we can add or amend accordingly. You're right to take that away from us,
Yeah,
Ben. Yeah, cheers.
100%. Yeah.
Thank you.
We've got one. Can you just pop the slide back up with all the links on, so that people can get that information?
Got a hand up as well.
We've got another hand up. Yeah, Jeff, do you want to take yourself off mute?
Just to say, I read the Phone Co-op's site and I was left not really very clear what the nitty-gritty detail was that was going to happen in any particular house. And I think it would be very helpful if you actually gave very specifics about, if you've got this kind of house, this is likely to happen. If you've got this, to give you more. There was a lot of reasons why they're going to do this, but not the nitty-gritty of what actually it means, who'll come and do what, when, where, and how will it impact you, whether it's your rural or extensions or whatever. So I think if you could do some of that when you do as you develop this program, that would be quite helpful for users.
That's fantastic feedback, and I agree with that actually from a consumer's basis. So yes, we will commit to making sure we review that accordingly.
We've also got, is there a phone number that people can actually call as well as contacting by email?
Yeah, there is. It's obviously not available in quite the same way the email is. You can email us anytime. We're open limited hours. Up in Chipping Norton, we'll put the number into the chat. If we could just do that, if with the 01608 number, if we could, that is available in kind of working hours. But the most efficient way of getting to us is via email. And also web chat as well. If you're technically minded, we do have that on the website too. But we'll make the phone number available.
It's got there. Can you set up a similar meeting specifically for Phone Co-op customers?
We can consider such thing. Yeah, absolutely. As part of the engagement process, we do have a project group set up at the moment, which. Like I said before, Catherine from our team leads. We have our product manager on it as well, and we're looking at all the different ways we can engage with members and customers between now and January. So I will feed that back into that group.
What's on there? I'm going to send you an email, but but they get the impression though that there is plenty that needs resolving, not specifically co-op problems, but as a whole, I suppose that's the whole process.
Yeah, yeah, I would say there is. It's becoming clearer. It is an enormous change for the kind of way in which phone calls are done from a landline. So there's bound to be areas, that need resolution. We're not here today to solve those problems or even necessarily answer them. We're here to try and support members as much as we can on kind of getting them through, and on a day-to-day basis, we'll ensure that our products and services and advice that we offer are as good as they can be to help people through the transition. It's been really useful actually in that way of getting that type of feedback is really helpful to us.
It could be worth getting an open reach technician on next time to answer access questions, etc., as there are several different ways to get a signal to remote areas.
Yeah, there is, and obviously Openreach are a completely different business to us, and hopefully they're offering sessions or advice in a similar way. But it's a good bit of feedback.
Have we got our own sort of that potentially could?
Not in-house,
Not
but
in-house.
there's potentially things we might be able to do.
What about phones that connect to laptops?
Want to take that one for us, Mark?
So
Outland?
digital voice systems that you use through your laptops, we actually provide those types of services as well. That they will still work because it's a digital service that's going through. So your telephone line that you're taking out is going through your broadband service, and your laptop is connecting through to that broadband service to be able to make those calls. So they will still work. It's just ensuring that the broadband service that's coming into your property is a fibre service that is not going to be turned off as part of the big switch off.
Hope that answers your question. We don't seem to have any more in the chat. Has anybody else got any more questions for the guys at all? Any hands up at the moment?
No. Okay. Okay.
No more questions? Oh, hold on, we've got one more. Just come in.
Thank you.
For the call, it's been good.
Thanks.
Start to deal with the nightmare. Yeah. Thanks, glad you did this. Yes. Openreach only provide the fibre. They're not a broadband supplier.
That's right.
Okay. Well, we hope this evening's session has been useful. As the guys have said that they are happy to take any questions, whether you're a co-op broadband member or not. They're here to help with any questions you might have. The recording of this will be available on our YouTube channel once we've topped and tailed it and done what we have to do. But what I will do tomorrow, I'll be emailing everybody just with a follow-up. I've got a small survey on there that it would be really great if you wouldn't mind just taking 5 minutes to fill out for us, because this helps us continue to improve and shape our ongoing events. I'll also add the link to our events page for you'll be able to see up and coming events. We've got another one coming up in March with
Energy.
Energy saving.
11th, energy saving. So please, join us for that one.
Yeah.
I'll also put in that email the links that we've showed on these slides as well for you. So you'll have all that information. And so if you've got any questions, you can email them or ring the guys. And again, I'll put the number on there as well. If you've got any questions at all, and we will look to do another one, as Stuart said, once we've got some more information that will be helpful, we'll arrange another session to update you on any changes that have been made or any more information that we find out beforehand. But if there is no other questions, and it doesn't look like anybody else has got their hand up. We've got one more. Hold on. Thanks for the opportunity to learn more, and well done for fielding so many questions. Thank you, Andrew. It's down to the guys, not me. But no, I once again thank you ever so much for taking the time out this evening to join us. And as we say, please get in contact if you have any questions. But I'll drop all the relevant information into an email tomorrow to everybody. So thanks again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.